We have everything in terms of severe weather happening today. Good morning, I'm meteorologist Pew. It's November 8th, 2025, and there's so much to talk about. So let's start with the southeast because the Storm Prediction Center did issue a marginal risk or a 1 out of 5 for severe weather, where there is a 2% chance of seeing an isolated risk of a tornado. Though it is stated that the tornado risk today is very minimal as the ingredients for the severe weather is not that potent. And so the more greater risk today is we're going to see isolated risks for winds up to 60 miles per hour and maybe hail. Now in terms of time frames, we're going to see isolated cells going from Georgia all the way to North Carolina pretty much throughout the day. And so by 4 p.m. Eastern time and throughout the evening and maybe a little bit into the night as well, we're going to see more frequency of these isolated cells even going to places like Virginia. So if we look at 500 millibars, I'm able to show this here. What's happening is we have this trough that's pretty much going throughout the entire country, but within this trough we do have a little bit of a shortwave trough, and a shortwave trough is essentially an embedded trough within a trough, and all that basically means that there's a little bit more spin in this particular localized area. So on top of having spin, which is going to help with those upward motions, we're going to have a lot of broad shear, which is going to tilt those updrafts and prolong those storms. And at the surface we do have a very subtle low pressure system, and that's going to be helping with the surface lifts, but in addition to that, it's helping bring in that Gulf moisture into this area. And in the meantime, throughout the country, we're going to have a lot of cold air come from the north, and so for the southeast specifically, we're going to have a stationary front, so there's going to be a boundary and the clash between the cold air and the warm air, which is going to help produce that surface lift. Now speaking of this cold air coming from the north, we've been looking at this low pressure yesterday that was in the international border of Montana and Canada, and is now around the Midwest area. And this low pressure is going to do a couple things for us. One, it's going to be bringing a lot of high winds to the plains and Eastern Rockies, where we're going to see winds from 20 to 30 miles per hour sustained. And so with that being said, there's going to be a cold front coming from the northern plains into the Eastern Rockies, and with that, it's going to be bringing cool, drier air. So yes, while we're going to have a lot of cold air come through the Eastern Rockies, during the transition period of when this cold front comes through, it's still going to be relatively warm, and because it's bringing more drier air, we're going to see relative humidities at the surface around 15%. So for this afternoon and early evening, with the combination of the relatively warmer air, drier air, and the high sustained winds, we're going to have a fire risk in the Eastern Rockies, mostly from eastern Colorado to western Kansas. Now back to the surface low pressure, because on the opposite end it's doing a couple of things as well. For places like Iowa, you guys are going to be seeing some snow pretty much already happening, where you guys are going to be seeing 1 to 3 inches. And if we go even more east to places like Iowa, Illinois, and Wisconsin, you guys are going to be seeing some showers pretty much throughout the day, but later in the day we may see some flurries. And these storms are going to continue traveling eastward, so from Illinois to places like Ohio, definitely expect precipitation throughout the day, into the night, and into the next morning. But the other concerning thing is, as this low pressure goes through, any region southern or eastern part of the Great Lakes are going to see a lot of snow. And this is because if we look back at the jet stream, we're going to have an upper level low pressure that's going to be coming from Canada and quickly moving into Great Lakes region. And this upper level low pressure is really going to deepen the existing trough that we have right now, and because that's counterclockwise flow, we're first going to have a lot of southerly flow, and then as this low pressure moves to the east, we're going to have more westerly flow. In any case, in the next 48 hours, south and east of the Great Lakes region, some places may get 6 to 8 inches of snow.